Okay, nearing the end now with chapter 5. Here we have a chapter titled simply Storytelling. This goes into what it exactly means to run a Hunter the Vigil game. It talks on the mystery and horror aspects, loss, revenge, hope, and choosing what kind of conflict and theme you want in your game. Pretty interesting here that they go into stuff like Hunter versus Human, where it's not just that it's always a monster. I mean, yeah, there might be a monster involved here, but it might be the human that's actually like the core of the problem. And of course, Hunter versus society, Hunter versus Hunter, and Hunter versus cell. If there's a problem within the cell and one Hunter feels like he's being ousted, maybe he's not being heard, something like that, it can happen. Hunter versus himself, and like they say here, a big one. Hunters can be pretty fucked up, unfortunately, yes. They go into more about investigation on how to run one, what to consider, how to make sure that there are several avenues of inquiry open to the players, and some things to avoid when thinking up clues and stuff like that. And then they go into this bit about this monster's heart, where they talk about how and why hunters target who they target, and are these things they go after, are they always irredeemably evil? In some cases they might not be. Are you going to kill them anyway, just because they're not like you? Again, some interesting questions, and could bring up some great conflict within the cell. And there's more talk of the different tiers of play, from street level to global conspiracies, and the motley cell. I like this one. This is one of those that I tend to use often. Friends forever, you know, people have been, like it says here, like hunting buddies for many years. You know, they might find themselves banded together again for a short period of time to take down some creature, to get more crazy hunting stories. And then at the storytelling chapter there's also a part called Dread Powers, and I'm going to give you a little glimpse at the artwork here. There's dread and there's power. So these are various abilities that the enemies of the hunters could use: balefire, agonize, confuse, fury, dement, damnation, giant size. Different sorts of things to make things more interesting. It's not, even if it's a slasher you're going after, it's not just a guy with a knife that wants to kill people. He might possess all kinds of terrible powers. And then they go deeper into these different sorts of enemies. They start with demons, and they have this section, the truth about demons. Certain things that the storyteller should keep in mind when running demons like this. What are always like the commonalities of these types of creatures. And there's lesser demons, greater demons, and they give examples of all of these. It's really cool. Here we have the bed shaker, a lesser demon. Then on the other hand we have Mr. White, a greater demon, with a picture even over there. And stuff like this, elder demons as well. One of them is described simply called the neighborhood. Then we have cults. What kind of cults there could be? Again, examples of these: sample cults and a sample cult leader. Then we have slashers, of course. They at least started out human, but now they're something totally different. And they come in all varieties, and it's one of the best splat books out there, the slashers one. I've read it, but I don't own it. It's really good. It gives a lot of creepy options for running these types of enemies. And then we have the enemy within. Turf wars, hunters against hunters basically, and even examples of hunter characters in here to get you thinking, and in all different tiers as well, so that you get a picture of how certain people might be in the administration of a high tier conspiracy, for example. And fallen hunters, of course. Some of them don't just die or retire or try to retire. Some of them switch sides. And then we have pretenders, changelings, the reanimated, wonderful, and one of my favorites, Sewer Billy. There's Billy. He lives in a sewer. Poor guy. Sorcerers and witches, of course, they're here as well, and vampires, werewolves. And that ends that chapter, but there's not that much left here, so I'm gonna continue, because here we get to Appendix 1, Morality and the Vigil. This deals with all the sorts of moral quandaries that come up with the Vigil, and what hunters have to do just to survive and to uphold their guard, to protect themselves and others, when to pull the trigger and when not to, the price we pay, external costs, internal costs, you know, like I said earlier, you know, you have to separate yourself from society in order to protect society, at least to do so efficiently. And I mean, it goes into some really dark territory here, even when there's some sort of deviance that starts occurring in the hunter's head, and when they start to slip, when some hunter has just gone through enough and they finally go over that line where it's like, okay, maybe it's alright to sacrifice this one person in order to catch the monster. And yeah. And finally, Appendix 2, we have Philadelphia, an example city in the world of darkness, and a good one at that. I mean, this is, I think, about 40 pages of Philadelphia, or 30. It has NPCs, places, all kinds of interesting stuff that could happen, groups there, the mafia. And that's about it for the book. As you can see, there's plenty to be had here. And if you've hung on for this long, maybe you'll hang on for just a moment further. in the last video, where I will go into house rules and some stuff I've discovered through play. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and see you around.